Half of young Canadian women say they're putting off kids because they can't afford them. But Mark Carney wants 100 million people, not for families, for the machine. No homes, no hope, and no future. Just growth at any cost. Not to build Canada, but to change it.
Good day. Today is April 23rd, 2025. I am Derek Fildebrandt, publisher of the Western Standard, and you're watching The Pipeline. I'm joined, as always, by Western Standard opinion editor, Nigel Hannaford.
I am the opinion editor. There is no juniors.
I'm
here.
And I would not deign to call you a senior.
And I am. Well, you know.
But we do have an official senior here, senior Alberta columnist, Cory Morgan.
Hello, senior.
All right. Now, we've also got, she's been on with us a few times now, and we've just said, screw it. We're going to make her a regular member of, or co-host of The Pipeline here. Erika Barootes, department head of the Applied Politics and Public Affairs program at McNamee College in Edmonton, Alberta. Well, officially welcome as our newest co-host.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here and that you didn't call me a senior, so we're off to a good start.
You're the only one who did not get called a senior.
Mm-hmm, I know.
Oh, all right, senior. So we're gonna talk about the debate that took place last week. Much of you have already seen it, or you've seen the clips of it and heard some things. But now that we got a little bit of a little distance from the debate, we want to kind of zoom out, talk about what happened, and also the complete breakdown of order and any ability to reasonably inform the public that came from the debates commission, the controversy of some independent media versus some of the legacy media. We're going to talk about that now that we've had some time to breathe and digest it all. We're going to talk about the Liberal platform. We'll talk a bit about the Conservative platform, but primarily the Liberal one, which Mark Carney is running on. As it turns out, it was written by the Liberal Party before he was the leader. In fact, it was written while Justin Trudeau was the leader. They've just taken it and taken Trudeau's platform and cranked it up to 10 on a few things and made a couple of nips and tucks for some of the less popular parts, like the carbon tax. And is this the NDP? That's my dad attempt at joking about the potential complete collapse and destruction of the NDP as an electoral force in this election. Projections have them on track for the worst showing in that party's history, potentially next week. All right, let's get into it. We're going to begin with Erika. Erika, the debate sucked. I put it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're done. I think that captures it perfectly. No, so so if people didn't watch us do our debate pre and post, which I was, sitting with you gents from afar in Edmonton, or if Derek, what you said at the start of the show made no sense to anyone, which is me half the time, I will give a quick synopsis of kind of what happened. So there was obviously the debate. I think Steve Pagan is the winner of the debate. He ended up being a very fair moderator. Unfortunately, as you alluded to, the debate commission, I think, kind of went rogue and screwed up a lot of opportunity for media. What you were talking about before is that on the first night, last Wednesday, we had the French debate, and Rebel News managed to get the spots at the beginning of the podium, which was totally fair. However, they, was argued by some of the mainstream and other individuals there that, let's kind of play nice and have more order and more discrepancy about like who can be at those podiums. So long and short, it did kind of cause a brouhaha that we focused on last week because of like, why can the commission just all of a sudden deem a security breach at the end of the English debate and not have media outlets ask questions of the candidates like they did the night before. So last minute, they kind of pulled a rug out from all the media individuals that had been there, including Jen, who had been there all day to stand in line to get their fair question and to do what the media is supposed to do, which is report. And so I think that actually, maybe gave the most color besides Francois Blanchette to the debate. Otherwise, I think that the popcorn that we were all eating while watching was the most entertaining part of that overall debate.
Yeah. I would challenge Erika on the fair part of that for Rebel News. I'm a fan of a lot of what Ezra and the Rebel do, but they were able to take, I think, 4 to 5 of the very limited number of question slots after the French debate. I haven't actually asked Ezra this particular question, but what I've read, and I'm taking that skeptically, but from what I've read, they were able to get that because they declared themselves to be like 4 or 5 different divisions, so technically different media companies. I don't think that should have been allowed. I think whatever your parent company, it's just one. Like the Western Standard shouldn't be allowed to send Western Standard, Alberta Report, Saskatchewan Standard, West Coast Standard. No, just Western Standard altogether. Post Media can't send National Post. Calgary Herald, Saskatchewan.
And I guess my question,
Star Phoenix,
and I agree with all that, except I don't know how the rules were clearly laid out by the commission.
They were just stupid rules.
Yeah.
They were stupid rules, and they played by it. And I get how that irks some people. I was irked because we had Jen Hodgson there. She didn't get to ask a question. And it wasn't just Rebel. There was some of the other independent, conservative-leaning ones as well. They were stupid rules. And the Rebel played by the stupid rules and won.
They leveraged the rules to their benefit.
Yeah. So I don't blame the Rebel. I don't think it was fair, but I don't blame the Rebel because they just won under those stupid rules. But then it was the second night. The media was out. The legacy media, I should say the legacy media guys in the media room were outraged, Cory. And they, we already talked about it and played some of the footage, but they ended up there was a screaming match from one of these, a Hill Times reporter. Anyone remember his name?
No, he's not that memorable.
He's not very important. No. But anyway, he was screaming, losing his mind first at Kian Bexty from Juno and Counter Signal, and then at Ezra Levant. And then I guess they just decided, like I told Jen Hodgson, you're literally going to stand at the front of that line and camp there all day like you're getting tickets to Kiss in 1978 or something. And she did.
Did you know what that meant?
She wasn't born yet.
Neither was I, but it's Kiss. Come on.
Me neither. But I'm not a senior, so I don't need to disclose that.
Yeah. But, I guess the debate commission saw that the independent media were lining up again. Again, we were only there for one question. I think that's fair. We should have been allowed one question. I think the Rebel should have absolutely been allowed in, Cory. But the Rebel, I guess, played by the rules a little too clever by half. And the debate commission lost its mind over it. It just canceled it the second day.
Yeah, it showed them incapable, I guess, of trying to come up with a new set of rules on the fly. I think quickly enough somebody should have realized the errors made during the French debate and just said, look, we've got to get this sorted out. One question per outlet, and then we can rotate, and perhaps you'll get through to a second one or run with a draw. It's not that hard if you got the will, but when you get bureaucratic type groups, they can't make decisions on the fly or change something when they've already written it up.
Cory, all they needed was a deck of cards.
Yes.
Everybody to top spade starts.
There you go. Because otherwise, if you did do a lineup, I could see the fights getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
I could see it if they see that it's stacked again with a bunch of one particular outlet over another in the front, and people who, hey, in good faith, legacy or not, came to get a question in and realizing they're not going to make it to the front of this lineup. Plus the fact that they allowed the questioners to put in lecturing preambles.
Yeah, there were some
another
some of them, not all of them, but some of them had a bit of a monologue.
And again, as a viewer, I was frustrated with that. Look, I'm viewing. I understand a slant that an outlet's going to come from, and that you want to give a bit of a preamble. But if you're going to spend, 4 minutes getting to the point on a question, I want to hear from the answer, not the questioner. But again, these things should have been able to change on the fly. Instead, they just thought the easier thing to avoid conflict is just to pull the plug on the whole works. And maybe 4 years from now, we'll try something again. It was a terrible failure on their part.
Nigel, I kind of parted way from a lot of conservative leaning types with the establishment of the Debates Commission, because I think leaving it to just the legacy media, big networks, has got its own set of perils. It tends to be more arbitrary. The rules about who's in and who's out change every time.
Said you wouldn't want to leave it to the Hill Times to decide?
No, certainly not. Those are not the people who should be deciding. But, we have, so like the rules about who's in and who's not is so arbitrary. And sometimes they make sense. Sometimes they don't make sense. I thought, well, okay, the Debates Commission will be imperfect, but at least we can establish some consistency, at least between elections. So, like, here's the benchmark to make it in. Do you have to elect someone first? Do you have to have a certain number of MPs first? Be polling above a certain amount? Whatever it is. Now, they seemed to tweak those rules from time to time to ensure that the Green Party is in and the PPC is out. But at least it was more consistent, at least for inclusion or exclusion, than having the old networks do it. But it came with its own set of problems. It's become more bureaucratic now, which obviously happens when you put it in the hands of government. Is there a preferable? Which is better? Just taking it back to the networks. I remember the Maclean's debate by itself in 2015. Paul Wells, I think, hosted that one. That was a good, informative debate. That was just one outlet, so you didn't have a bunch of cooks in the kitchen, every network trying to get their airtime, so to speak. I don't know. Is it time to abolish the Debates Commission, reform it, or continue on?
No, I just think it's time for them to do a better job. I had a look at their website to see exactly what we were dealing with here, and there are a number of retired politicians who are the sort of the governing board, as it were. And then they have a staff of 3. That's quite a lot of people to actually sit around the table and say, how are we going to do this in a way that is fair to the candidates and also to the media, and perhaps consult with some of the media, including the independent media, to say, well, what would work? I mean, I was making a facetious comment about a pack of cards. Well, actually,
It's not that bad.
that would have done better than what they
Not
did.
sure it's perfect, but it'd be better.
Yeah. So there's 8 clever people, some of whom are well paid for being there. They should be able to fix this, and it just takes a good look at that footage from the other night. They'll see why.
I also think if we're going to keep the Debates Commission, and I know a lot of people are saying get rid of it, probably get rid of the people on the commission. Time to, at the very least, we got to clean house from it. And I'm sure not everybody there is bad, but I think this is such a epic gargantuan. Everybody on all sides of the political spectrum agree this was a total, complete failure. Not even talking about the debate itself. Its format was, it was for tiny little sound bites. Well, we already get that on social media. This was for something a little more long form, more interactive, where you're going to be testing under fire these leaders in a form, because none of the leaders do big, outside of French media, where it's still important, none of the major leaders have done a sit-down accountability interview where they're really tested. That includes Polyev, Carney. I can't speak to Singh because no one pays attention to him anymore. But the 2 big guys, they haven't really been tested in a long-form sit-down interview where they're really held to the fire. This was the opportunity for that, and they missed it. At the very least, I think we need new commissioners, and it can't just be appointed by the Prime Minister, for God's sakes. It shouldn't even just be appointed by a simple majority of Parliament. This kind of thing should have a super majority of Parliament where you've got at least the government and the official opposition both buying in, agreeing together on who's going to be on this commission. It's got to be so far above reproach. Not that I'm accusing it of necessarily being partisan, but there was not bipartisan or multi-partisan buy-in here. What do you think, Erika? Should we throw it out, go back, just kick it back to the networks, keep it the commission, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people actually paid attention. And this is one where you're like, this is time to pay attention. I agree that we're missing kind of those editorial board style of interviews that give that long form content. And now that we have technology, just air those. A little bit different than these debates, because you're right, they were really catered to the attention deficit disorder that our entire nation probably struggles with in like these quick sound bites, as opposed to letting them kind of go at it. And what I was hoping to see was how both Pierre and Mark would get under and respond under pressure, because I think that was also to differentiate for them and these setups and how we've seen them over the last little while. For the front runners, it's about just not losing support. I don't think anyone is winning in debates in their current structure. And to be frank, like, I think a lot of people already voted or already knew how they were going to vote. So, I don't know. I'm starting to lose the sense of, do people actually care? Do they actually listen? In this one, we would think, but even the viewership or the influence of the undecided was maybe not going to be, weighing as much as we'd hope. So if it's about saving tax dollars, I'll say get her out of there.
When it comes to elections, it's not really about tax dollars. They're going to be expensive no matter what. Although in the grand scheme of a federal budget, they cost nothing. So I think it's about doing it right, regardless of what the cost is. I'd also note, like, if we're going to have a debate, we should have more than one. And because, let's say, I guess technically two, but, as we talked about previously, the French debate is a de facto Quebec debate, where the bloc leader gets to play host to the thing. He's almost like a co-moderator in a sort of unofficial way. We should have maybe some regional debates. Let's have
why shouldn't Alberta do Western issues? Let's to cover those.
Well, we can have a BC debate. I mean, interior BC is more like us, but there's different issues. So let's have a BC debate. Let's have a prairie debate. I mean, I'd like one for all three of the prairies, but fine. A prairie debate, an Ontario debate, an Atlantic debate, because Quebec already gets its own debate unofficially here. So let's just do that, and then we can, maybe then a truly national debate after, where we're not into the minutia. But let's have some. The defining characteristic of Canada is regions and regionalism. We've already got a debate for that for Quebec. Let's do it for everybody else.
Come on, let's have a debate and not just a recitation of talking points that we've already heard from the campaign trail.
Well, they're all going to try and do that. All party leaders, because that's generally what works. It's always worked, and it's even more so in the era of social media. Everyone's interrupting each other. Traditionally, that was so you could interject. A lot of people, I think, have wisely noted, before I'm saying it here, that the interruptions, primarily from Jake Meeting, but also from others during the debate, were not actually to interject your point or interrupt. It was to wreck each other's social media clips. So if, one of the candidates is going on a rip, about to give a good zinger, Jake goes, so it wrecks their social media clip. And that's all it's about. Well, this is already, social media defines the election. Let's make this debate about something else. A little more time, a little more interaction, rather than just more social media clips for this. Okay. Let's turn to the platforms here. If we have time, we can talk about the Conservative platform. But I want to zero in on the Liberal platform here. The Liberals have admitted that this platform was actually written, at least in most part. I'm not sure if it was down to the last T and I crossed and dotted, but this platform was essentially constructed and approved before Mark Carney actually became Liberal leader. So it was written while Justin Trudeau was still Liberal leader and Prime Minister. My guess is there's obviously been some nips and tucks here, because the carbon tax is no longer in the Liberal platform. It's now just going to be, something else. I don't know, Alberta's going to pay /industry, capital gains, etc. But for the most part, it is still the Trudeau platform, Nigel.
Absolutely. And it is foolish to think it would have ever been anything else, because these things take a long time to put together. The famous Liberal Red Book that characterized the campaigns in earlier years, they went into production on that 10 months before the next election was expected. It's a big document. You're not going to turn it out in an afternoon. So it is very important, however, for the Liberal Party to make you think that this is something that Mr. Carney has had his hands on and is new, therefore, because everything about Mr. Carney. Mr. Carney is the only new thing in the liberal campaign. The same people are running for seats. The same people, if elected, will end up in cabinet, not necessarily in the same positions, but it's the old gang. The only one that's missing is Justin Trudeau. So, like you put a new operating system into your computer and the thing works differently. So they kind of slid Mr. Trudeau, slid Mr. Carney in, but it's the same thing.
It's not even a different operating system. It's a different screensaver.
If you want to get
to beat your analogy up a little further,
the viewers should understand that when we have off times, we sit around talking computers in the Western Standard. So
no, at least for the seniors.
Yeah, absolutely. And the ones who understand it because they were there when it started. So anyway, look, of course the announcement and what there's one aspect in which it is different, and this was brought out by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation in Saskatchewan. I hadn't noticed this until I saw it in theirs. The original Trudeau document called for about $100 billion less in borrowing than what Mr. Carney is now proposing. Mr. Carney is proposing $225 billion in new borrowing over 4 years. It's $100 billion more than what Mr. Trudeau's plan had been. But let that sink in. First, in 2015, they inherited a federal debt of $600 billion. Fair enough. Then, over the next 10 years, they doubled that debt. They'll blame COVID, but of course there were other considerations, including just reckless adventuring with the public money. So Mr. Carney comes on the scene after this party has doubled the federal debt. And now he wants his own borrowing tranche. And he is proposing another $225 billion. These people don't know.
That's if they stay on budget.
Well, that would.
The Liberal Party has never once, in 10 years, stayed on budget. Not once.
So just like it's a contrast, isn't it? Mr. Trudeau, when he campaigned in 2015, said, well, we'll have three $10 billion deficits and balance in the fourth year.
Small.
This is stimulus. Mr. Carney goes out there and promises $225 billion over 4 years, not $30 billion, $225. And bless my soul, $130 billion in the first year. Like, where do all these zeros come from? This is a banker. We're all being told this is a banker. You can put him in charge. He knows what he's doing. Lord knows he tells us all the time that he knows what he's doing. He understands the world. Well, his understanding of the world is when you want to do big things, you go and borrow big money.
Oh, the bankers will love this, Cory. But I guess, Justin Trudeau is wildly unpopular, which is why the Liberals, at long last, finally got rid of the guy. But do people care that this is Justin Trudeau's platform? Probably, a little bit of tinkering around the edges, really. This is, at its core, written by and signed off by Justin Trudeau. People don't like him, but are they going to care? Because you got the same team, you got the same MLAs, the same cabinet, the same advisors, and now the same platform. None of it stuck so far to Carney. Do people care?
I don't know. It's not indicated in the polls so far that they care that much. I don't know if the average citizen has made the connection and realized that when you have a grossly overspending and borrowing government that's going to devalue your currency, that's what's hitting your cost of living. That's what's making it difficult for you to pay your bills. I don't know if the average citizen has made that connection. So when they put that new coat of paint on that old horse, it seems to have worked. And it's frustrating. They're taking it on faith. Well, he's a banker. He knows what he's doing. Well, that budget says he doesn't. Or that he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't care what the impact of it is, which is even worse. And it's I don't know what it takes anymore. I don't know what kind of fiscal kick in the butt Canadians need to get. As you pointed out, if anybody's benefiting from this, it's the bankers. Yes, they love lending money because that's how they make money. You shuffle numbers, you take a percentage off of the top, and you do really well out of it. That's how bankers work. I'm thinking we need actually an economist, not a banker. And there is a big difference between the two. And people are equating it as if a banker would have the same broad macroeconomic look at what these policies do to everybody. Maybe Mark Carney's just looking at what it does for banks and lenders. And I mean, that's the thing that has always gotten me to the left when it comes to deficit financing. Do they not understand when they seem to, love borrowing and borrowing that the big fat cats, the mustache tweaking bankers are the only ones that benefit from that? Interest payments are going straight to them. That's money out of your pocket into them. I thought you were there for the little guy, but they seem to have a cognitive dissonance when it comes to that. And I don't know. It looks like the Liberals may have pulled the wool over Canadians' eyes.
Again.
Yes.
Erika, the Conservatives are trying to make this stick. They've, they went after Carney for keeping, with very little changes, the same roster of the Trudeau cabinet. He moved some, but not all, people around in different positions for like the week or two he was prime minister before the election. But he's still got the same caucus. He's still got mostly the same cabinet. Now the platform, but the caucus and the cabinet and the whole set of advisors in the PMO, none of that has changed. And the Conservatives have tried to tie Carney to Trudeau on that, and it does not seem to have stuck. Now we've got the platform. This is newer. What could the Conservatives do to make this stick? Because nothing else has stuck so far.
Yeah, and I agree. Nothing has really stuck, unfortunately, because I think they're right. They're right that this man is ultimately, whether he's trying to or not, he's doing a masterful job, Mark Carney, of catfishing Canadians. And he is selling how great he is on resume and that he's going to be more conservative. He's not Justin Trudeau. And the Conservatives have tried and said, no, it's the same. Like, it is not different. It's the same people. It's not this knight in shining armor that's going to make the Liberal Party actually centrist or even close to right of center. Like, Justin Trudeau moved it into socialist territory, and that's where they're going to stay. And even with the platform, I think that I'll give the Liberals credit. They waited so long to do it, to after the debate, to release their full costed budget, because they know how bad it is and they know what this is. I mean, I know that the Privy Council released a report basically saying that we're going to be in Hunger Games style under the way that we're currently going. And that's even expedited by Mark Carney. So what do the Conservatives need to do? I think they need to keep talking about that. And hopefully, to those that haven't voted yet, that message is getting through. But I do think that the Liberals are good at campaigning by being shiny object. I'm this saving grace, Mark Carney. I'm, in the first week looking to be a conservative. And now I am pulling full socialist agenda and I'm going to catfish, and everyone's going to wake up the next day after the election and realize we made a horrible decision should the Liberals win. And I don't really know what the Conservatives can do, or if the runway's just a little too short at this point to close that gap. Wishful thinking. I'm just hoping that Conservatives don't answer their phones and answer the polls, and we'll be surprised. But if we're going off of current statistics, it looks like the runway's getting a little shorter.
I do have to push back on one thing you said, though. You said that the Liberals did not release their platform until after the debate, so people would, be kind of too late to change their minds for many who were voted. But the Conservatives also did not release their debate. They waited until after the debate as well. Depending how charitable or not we're being, there's different reasons for that. I get that maybe you want to make most of your announcements throughout the campaign and then release.
If I was the Conservatives, I would have done it as the Conservatives before the debate. And I think it would have added a bit more astute. Totally. The morning of was when the NDP did it, and that helped the UCP win because it was a horrible budget. He was hiding. The Conservatives, I think, with their plan that's actually quite good, and quite in contrast to Carney, should have released it early. And even just saying, we're not going to care what these guys say, and they might funk some numbers up to try and not make it look so bad. But so what you asked me what they could do versus what I think they should have done, I would have got that budget out before the debate.
All right. So we'll talk about the guys now that nobody, including us, is really talking about very much. Is this the NDP? Yeah, I really thought I was clever for that one today. So give me a slow clap from home if you're watching.
That was actually a headline in 2019 after the NDP lost. So I don't know if we can give you any credit there.
I hadn't seen it. So to me, at least,
I have a friend.
it's an original headline for the Western Standard. I have not seen it. Okay. All right, Cory. The NDP here it's just polls, but polls are a snapshot of where people are at today. Does not mean it's what they're going to do tomorrow, but it's pretty good indication of at least trend lines we're on. And the trend line we're on is for an absolute train wreck for the NDP. 338 polling aggregator, not perfect, but they have a pretty good reputation. They're generally in the ballpark. They've got the NDP around 6 seats, maybe even less, depending how things go. You need 12 seats to be an official party in Parliament. 6 seats. People can check on Wikipedia. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 6 seats might be would make it the worst result in the history of the NDP. I think you might even have to go pre-NDP to one of its predecessor parties, the Canadian Commonwealth Federation, to go back into the early 60s or the 1950s to find something around 6 seats. And remembering that was a smaller parliament, so actually as a proportion, this would be something closer to 3 or 4 seats if we're talking historically. How much weight do you put in the projections that the NDP is headed for doom? And what does it mean for the future of the NDP if they were to get obliterated like this?
Yeah, well, it's the end of Singh. I mean, he's just been a terrible leader. And even, the most hardcore of loyalists will have to admit that after this election. Whatever the NDP has to do, they got to change their leaders out. Will they be gone? No, I don't think so. I mean, the socialists are always there. They're like a social disease. They might go into remission, but they'll come blossoming back later on.
Or are they just more at home in the Liberals now?
Well, that's part of it. So there's kind of a number of things that hit that worked very badly for Singh. Part of it was he just found himself in lockstep and constantly supporting the Liberals. So to the point of people saying, well, if he's just going to be with them all the time, what's the point of bothering with a separate party? Anyhow, he's the same thing. Trudeau took the Liberals to the left. He was not a conservative Liberal leader. So again, that started eating a lot of Singh's lunch slowly but surely. Another thing that happened was it's almost a boomerang effect with the polls. If we looked 4 months ago, looked that was going to be a supermajority of conservatives, that Pierre Poilievre was going to be the prime minister with a unstoppable force coming in. And center-left supporters of the NDP said, well, boy, I'm going to strategically vote. I prefer the NDP, but you know what? I would still rather have a liberal group in there rather than letting Poilievre take off with this. And they migrated to the Liberal Party. So just everything came together for a terrible electoral outcome for the NDP in this particular election, on top of which Singh has just not been an effective leader. He hasn't been inspiring people to come out and support him or vote for him. And I don't even know if he's wanted to. I mean, his performance has been so bad, whether it's the debates or campaigning in general, you'd almost think he's throwing the race.
Yeah, I mean, I do not think he is an agent of the Liberal Party, but if he was an agent of the Liberal Party, he would be doing exactly what he has been doing for years now. So
No, that's not true. I think if he's an agent of the Liberal Party, he might be in not third place in his own riding. He'd be doing better right now because he'd be running under a different umbrella. This guy's going to lose his own seat.
Well, I mean, like, if the Liberals had
a good agent, I guess I should say.
Well, if the Liberals had captured a Terminator and put a Jagmeet Singh, human tissue over top and used it, sent him into the past. Because the Liberals were destroyed under Trudeau, and they sent Jagmeet Singh into the past to kill the NDP. I mean, he would be doing exactly what he is doing now. I don't. My tinfoil hat isn't on firmly enough to think that that's an actual thing, but it's what he would be doing. Nigel, one of my theories has been that because of Jagmeet Singh and the NDP's close association with Justin Trudeau, because Justin Trudeau is, at least in person, no longer there, that Jagmeet Singh is actually wearing the stink from the Trudeau Liberal government more than Mark Carney. Because Mark Carney, however credibly or not it is, can claim he's new. I wasn't there. Yeah, sure.
He actually...
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm.
But most people who aren't following politics that closely never heard of the guy until he was prime minister. So my theory has been that the NDP is wearing the stench from the Liberal government more than the Liberal government is. What do you think?
Well, that would certainly be the evidence of the polls. If the polls are to be believed, then the Liberals are considerably more popular today than they were 3 weeks ago. The NDP has not recovered. They were not popular 3 weeks ago. If anything, they're worse today.
Well, they're much worse.
So, it may not be the specific policies, however, because I'm not sure everybody could articulate what they were. What people are rejecting is just somebody who came along and hitched a ride, sold out cheap. It wasn't like the dental plan that he got was such a big thing. To justify, if you're an NDP member, you're probably just as passionate about your NDP as, some conservatives are about their particular stream of conservatism. And to see somebody just put it all on the line for nothing more than to stay in office, coincidentally long enough to pick up the federal pension, is just more than flesh and blood can take. I think they're just sick of Jagmeet Singh. Never mind the NDP.
Erika, let's fast forward to next week. There could be a conservative government, a liberal government. Polls are leaning liberal, but could be conservative if conservatives have a better turnout among their supporters. But one way or another, it's going to be annihilation for the NDP. How bad is up for grabs? But let's just take kind of the aggregate numbers from 338 right now. Let's just say 6 seats. They're half the number they need for even official party status. The long climb of the NDP that began with Jack Layton in 2004 has been now reversed, and then some. It's just been completely put down to early 1960s levels here. Goes without saying, Jagmeet Singh's gone. Even if he somehow wins his seat, if there's only 6, very good chance he loses his. Let's just take as a granted, Singh would be gone. Let's talk about what would the future hold for the NDP. Do you think we would then move? It looked, after 2011 when the NDP formed official opposition with Jack Layton, thought maybe we're headed towards a two-party system, at least outside of Quebec. Actually, no, even including Quebec, because the NDP had swept Quebec at that time. Do you think this would pretend maybe a move back, and we haven't had this since the 1950s, a really hardcore two-party system minus Quebec with the bloc? Or do you think there's a space for the NDP to come back? Where do they go from here if they're cut down to like 6 seats?
Yeah, they're really going to have to rebrand themselves. They're going to need a strong leader, because I think that you're all right, that there was more of a distaste for Justin Trudeau than the Liberal Party by Canadians. And in this case, definitely more of a distaste for Jagmeet Singh's leadership than NDP. There's always going to be NDP supporters. Like the far left doesn't really have anywhere to go. And I don't think that the Liberals are maybe going to stay where Justin Trudeau put them. They're going to spend like drunken sailors, but they might on some other policies be a little bit more open, or at least that's what Carney's catfishing us today to believe. So what happens? They're going to have to figure out first, even in Alberta on May 1st, they're talking about their relationship with the federal government, with the federal party in Alberta, NDP. So I think they're going to have to first work on all of their provincial partners, because I think there's such a difference of a federal NDP versus each of the different jurisdictions and how they go about it. So they have to do some kumbaya moments internally, and then they're going to need to have a leader that actually understands what being NDP is, as opposed to being a TikTok star, and focus on those things that actually matter. Now, are they going to come up and be opposition in a meaningful way? No, but I don't see the NDP, just because of how tied people are, it'd be like removing a conservative party. There's always going to be that stronghold. I think what they're going to do is just really pick their lane and have to rebrand, both at the provincial as well as the federal level. So maybe not next election, but I don't think that we won't have a quote unquote socialist party in our country.
All right. Well, let's turn to our parting shots. hopefully Erika didn't steal your thunder too much, Nigel.
Yeah, sorry.
I think so. No, I mean, actually, you threw me the line there. You drew attention to what you referred to as the Hunger Games. So what's actually this is absolutely amazing. There is within the Privy Council office, which supports it's the civil service mirror of the Prime Minister's office. There is a place in there which is just tasked to look ahead, try and review the big picture, what could happen, what may not happen, what would we suggest if it did. Blue skiers, big thinkers, and periodically they produce a report. Well, they decided to look at what would happen if the existing policies of the Liberal government were continued unaltered. How would Canada look in 15 years' time? He said it's going to stink. People are going to be leaving, like the high-performing anywhere people. You're going to be left with people who don't have options. They're usually lower-wage earners. Things could get so bad that in this impoverished country, people would be out foraging in the woods and the fields, poaching on public lands, just trying to find enough food to get by on. What intrigued me about this is that it actually came to light during the election campaign, and I can't imagine that is an accident because it was actually prepared in January.
It is odd.
It is,
or is it wiped or something? How did it come out?
No, they just issued it. So anyway,
Someone in opposition, like in the research, I think just found it because Pierre talked about it in his platform. Like it wasn't really released or anything. He just made reference to it. Like someone just published it and probably.
I think Blacklock's got a hold of action.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, this is kind of what we've been saying all along. And my parting shot is, I guess, Julie and I'll try and get out before the rush.
Well, I'll just say this: Blacklock's reporter, a great news agency in Ottawa that we contract with as partners. If I was Prime Minister, the very first thing I would do is hand a giant grant to those two. It's literally a mom and pop shop. It's a husband and a wife running it. I would buy them off and send them to a warm island somewhere and get them the hell out of my hair. Because even if you're a great Prime Minister, they're going to find something you screwed up at. They're too damn good. Those are old school data reporters, and they're dangerous. That's why we hire them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cory, parting shot.
Well, I go on social media, and lo and behold, there's Premier Smith riding a high-speed train, laying the tracks, as she has been hinting for a couple of years, yes, in Japan. And a report's coming out soon that's going to paint a rosy picture on why Alberta needs a high-speed train, even though nowhere in North America has managed to have a successful high-speed train because we don't need one, we don't want one. They're boondoggles, they're a disaster every bloody time, and I'm tired of Smith's fixation on it, so I'm just laying it out now. Balance the budget, get Alberta ahead, then you can pursue pet projects like a high-speed train. But until then, put the little train on the shelf. And we do not need this right now. I don't understand why they're so hung up on this. And I'm not going to let it go. Put it aside. We've got more budgetary issues to deal with before you get onto something like that.
Why you know like choo-choo?
I know like choo-choo when I got to pay for it. If I could buy the ticket on my own choice, if these things are so darn good, the private market will take care of it. And that's the way the old Premier Smith used to talk. So let's keep the train on the same track with that as it used to.
I'm in general agreement, and I'm highly skeptical of this kind of thing. But some of the proposals that have been floated around, maybe that I think it was, if the province pays for a connection to the main LRT line in Calgary to the airport, that they would then, as long as they're given kind of a right of way and the land to build it, they'll build it out to Banff. Okay, I mean, like the LRT, I don't ride it anymore. It's not the greatest, but it probably should connect to the airport. That's one thing I'd probably get behind. But I'd have to see the proposal. But I share your.
They just keep dipping their toe in that water.
Fast choo-choos.
I haven't seen a whole lot of demand from people on the streets screaming, I really, really need that multi-billion-dollar high-speed rail between Calgary and Edmonton. Because that's where it keeps leading.
The only reason this keeps coming up is because the politicians, as I've been one, the politicians in the South driving up to QE2 and then back every week. It's a terrible, miserable, monotonous, boring drive. And you sit there thinking, oh, God, wouldn't it be nice if I could just lay back and, check my emails and work along the way? Because taking the plane, it only takes you 3/4. It takes it a Leduc.
Well, give them all chauffeured limos. It'd still be cheaper than that bloody train.
It would be. That is why this idea keeps coming back up. It's because half the politicians take that drive, and that drive doing every week sucks. Bad. Okay, my parting shot. You all remember Jessica Yaniv? I don't know what he calls himself anymore. Actually, I do know what he calls himself. So you all recall this person. This is a trans individual, I think from Vancouver, if I get that right. And he went around and tried to use the human rights commissions to charge and obtain ransom money from, in many cases, poor immigrant women in women's salons. Think of the Vietnamese women working in there. And he demanded that they wax her balls. Remember, this is the language of just a few years ago. This is she was demanding that they wax her balls and things like that. Anyway, she has a new name. I'm going to read what she has said on Twitter. He. My Métis name. First moment for the record, she is not Métis, as far as we could tell. She is white as the snow. But my Métis name is Kaskitewatiskewin. Oh, wow, that's the closest I've gotten so far, which is probably not very close. Kaskitewatiskewin. It means serenity in Cree, a word you'll choke on as you watch a Métis woman. The factual errors already are incredible. A Métis woman descended from buffalo hunters, La Chasse-Garrie, and Red River Fire, dismantle the settler colonial rot you clutch like blood-soaked treaty. Pope Francis is dead, but the church's genocidal legacy lives on in every stolen Métis child, every unmarked grave, every whisper of residential school. I am a Métis woman. No, she says women. I am a Métis women, so she's also now plural. Okay. I do not forgive. I do not forget. The Vatican falls in my memory. I think it means fits. Okay, so just from factual errors alone, woman, Métis, and women, plural. You referring to herself in the plural. At this point, referring to herself in the third person or in the plural is probably the least factual error in this. But I do want to point out this is less outrageous than calling herself a woman, because Métis are people of mixed heritage. They're people who are part white, often French, but not entirely. But part white and part indigenous North American. So, she's not Métis, as far as we could tell. Correct, and some people can correct me if I'm wrong. She's not Métis, but she is at least white, which is half of Métis. But she is not half a woman. So, claiming she is Métis, as factually problematic as that is by far the least problematic claim that she has made. So anyway, I just wanted to make this a land acknowledgement for Jessica Yaniv Kaskitewatiskewin.
It's getting better. I think your pronunciation there.
There you go. I told you I could speak Le Français. All right.
Well,
my
go?
Oh!
Is it my turn? No, you forgot about me, just as always.
Oh, I'm sorry. I never saved myself for last. I'm sorry.
Oh. Well, we'll just leave best for last instead.
Exactly.
So a little bit different of a tangent. I am throwing this at one person for props, another for just the legacy media's horrific fact checking on these two budgets. The fact that we don't have anyone but some columnists actually highlighting how horrific, one, not covering the Privy Council stuff that Cory talked about, two, not covering the actual contrast of liberal versus conservative platforms that were put out. So the firing shot actually came from Ian Brody. If you see him go on CBC, I believe it was this morning, and just ripped the CBC fact checker a new one, basically criticizing everything of how they contrasted, compared, and the facts that they were putting out about the Liberal platform. So I can't take the shots fired today. I'm giving it to Ian Brody, who, really held the mainstream accountable. Again, maybe too late to get it out to voters in the style in which we need as conservatives. But man, he literally came on so professional. The interviewer kind of jaw dropped, didn't know how to answer the questions, and it was basically criticizing the people that we all want to be defunded. So,
our final segment is called parting shots, but you called it shots fired, but yours actually makes sense.
I like mine better.
Yeah. Shots fired actually kind of makes sense. I mean, it worked for yours at least. All right.
Yeah. Well, sorry that I screwed that up. I won't.
No. It's it. Let's roll with it. We'll do parting shots. You do shots fired.
Perfect.
All right. Erika, Cory, Nigel, thank you. And our producer, John, thank all of you for joining us. I want to remind you that on election night, April 28th, starting at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, the Western Standard will be live streaming. We've got a great lineup. We've got pundits, campaign experts. We've even got former BC Premier Gordon Campbell in. We've got former Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall in. And of course, my smiling face, Nigel, Cory, Erika. We've just got a great lineup. And I think you're going to find it informative, maybe more so than watching the CBC on election night. Thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you Monday night for the results as they come in from Canada's federal election. Thank you very much. God bless the West.